All right, what is up, everybody out there? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. Tuesday night, reality has set in. Teachers went back to work today. Today was the second day of practice for us. Um, so makes it official when teachers go back for the first time. Um, and we're full go. We're in it now. It's on. It's that time of year. Um, it is, you know, it it's one of those deals. I think we talked a little bit about it last week. Going into it, you know how much there's going to be going on. Teachers going back, school starts again. You got to get back into that routine, back into that grind. But it's kind of a mental physical type battle. Obviously all summer, everybody that follows the things that I do. Obviously, I was playing a ton of golf. I was working on my golf game. Thought about qualifying for the Senior PGA Open. That didn't happen. I missed the date. But long story short, you get used to doing all those things. And then when school and football are coming back, it kind of becomes that mental struggle of, all right, this is what I was doing. Kind of enjoyed it. Here comes this other part that's coming up. And obviously, you love football. You know why you do it. But it's just kind of mentally, physically tough to get back in the grind. But after 25 years of doing it, the one thing I realized is once it starts again and that first practice hits, it's just on. Everything goes back to normal. I don't know if your body's used to it, if your mind's used to it, if you've been doing it for so long that you understand exactly what's going on. But I thought it would be a little bit tougher to get back into, but it was actually not very tough at all. Two practices in already two practices down. Amazing how fast time goes. Once you start doing it and you only have X amount of time on the field, you're starting with meetings and then you're going on the field. And then afterwards, you got to go lift and then you got to go special teams meetings. And then you got to clean stuff up. But it's just amazing how quickly it all goes once you start doing it. And, two practices in. One first day for us was JV young kids. Today was our varsity older group. And I'm going to give you guys a couple things that I think we're doing that a bunch of other people I know are probably already doing, but things that are helping us tremendously. The first one is we are going to be on offense. We are going to be heavy RPO based. We've been RPO based. My offense has always been the last 6-7 years RPO based. The offense that I'm working with now, definitely, they were one of the first ones to be running RPOs years ago. And in the past, they've defending them, having played them so many times. They certainly carry RPOs, but I think we're going to major more in it this year. Fits our players, fits our quarterback. So what our head coach wanted to do on the offensive side is he wanted to do some what he calls shell periods. And we originally started with cans up front. And, it's just funny how I wish I could. Is this the same CW post, Pete Porcelli? And it's absolutely no disrespect. You are 100% correct. It is awful. So, when's the last time you've seen or talked to Chris Cameron? I don't want to get sidetracked, guys, but this is an old school legend that played at a college on Long Island, similar to Division III at that time, then went to Division II. I just played in a member guest with him at North Hempstead in June that I've been playing with him for 25 years. Unbelievable. So that's why I love the YouTube world so much. You have no idea who you're going to run into. It's amazing. So what we started off doing was we started off with cans up front, and just the shell. So coach wanted just overhangs, corners, and safeties, so he could teach his receivers and his quarterbacks and the coverages, and the RPOs and who we were reading and access throws and all that. And he wanted us to give him different looks, and it got difficult for us with no linebackers in there originally because our safeties didn't know what coverages they could call based on the picture they saw because the linebackers weren't there, so we didn't know when we could play quarters and how that would look. And so we were doing it over the summer, and it's a great drill because there's no body on body contact, and it's it's completely legal for us to do, and you get a lot of great reps in it. So what we did was we turned it into a drill that now kind of fits us on both sides of the ball. So what he let us do is he let us put our linebackers in the drill, and they can still use cans for the front. So the O-line coach can change from odd to even. He can change where the 3 technique is. We can't block body on body right now anyways. So there's no real full live contact. You can step to assignments and all that stuff, but there's no live body on body contact. So what it allowed us to do is once we put backers in, now our guys could call the coverages they needed to call. We could see the entire picture, and then our backers could work on how they would fit the runs they were seeing. So we were seeing a lot of power counter, split zone, all your traditional runs, traditional things that are going to get tied to RPOs. So we turned it into a drill when, even if it's like for us, we have offensive days, defensive days, or what we call priority days, and then secondary days. So a lot of our guys play both ways. We try not to start them all both ways. But so what it turned into is a drill where we're both getting work now. And in today's day and age, when you're running RPOs and you're defending RPOs, you really have no choice but to look at the whole picture. So, as a head coach personally, I stopped doing standard inside run probably almost 10 years ago. We'll do some periods that are just the interior run game, but our run periods became 11 on 11. And the reason being is on offense, we carried access throws, we carried RPOs, we carried all these things that quarterbacks had to make decisions on. And when we're doing traditional inside run, 9 on 7, however you want to look at it, if we're not putting receivers out there, if we're not putting access throws out there, your bubbles, your keys, whatever it may be, now we're kind of doing a disservice to our quarterback because he's not getting the full picture. So that when we go team and the box isn't clean or the look isn't good and we don't throw access, now we're ripping the quarterback for not throwing access, but we just did 10 or 15 minutes of inside run and we never threw an access ball. So we still do it because O-line coaches love it, running back coaches love it, D-line guys, like the interior guys still love it. But I think if you're carrying RPOs, defending RPOs and access throws and everything that goes on in today's game, I think more of that needs to be team-based. And that's how I approach it on defense. Now, do we have periods where linebackers, D-line, and overhangs just fit runs? Yes, we do. We might be doing half-line pattern match stuff with no ball while D-line linebackers and overhangs, Sam, or one of our safeties that we're rotating. Maybe we're working on just normal box run fits. But for me on defense, I'm always trying to tie everything to the full picture because I'm trying to teach our kids based on coverage, who's in the run fit, who's supporting the runs, trying to take away throws that the offense is taking. So, this kind of shell drill morphed into a drill that we do almost every day now. And they're working on RPOs, quarterback's getting the reads he needs. We're fitting runs. Linebackers are at least seeing keys and pulls and where we need to be, depending on whether we're playing it in 3 high or sometimes if coach doesn't want that because it's not what they need to work against, we'll play it in standard, whatever he needs. If he needs 8-man front, 3 deep, if he needs middle of the field open, we can do all those things. So it gives our kids a chance to call, first of all, call coverages, right? So any chance we get to see formations and call coverages, the better off we are. Then it gives us a chance to defend RPOs, talk to our apex players about what the front is, even if the offensive line coach is setting up the front. And even if we were using cans, I would tell the Sam linebacker, okay, well, look inside. Are the 2 cans in the B gap and the C gap, 3 technique, 5 technique? Yes. Hold longer. There's nowhere to go. You're going to be the guy that gets RPO. The back's on your side. There's no gap to fall into. Hold your water, right? So now we're able to talk to our guys about making coverage calls, talking to overhangs and apex defenders about how to hold windows and how to vice and fold and all the things that they need to do. So now we're both getting work. Both sides are getting work. So it's basically turned into a drill that we're carrying that is conducive. And I think, when you can do complementary drills that are good for both sides of the ball, because every day you set up a practice plan, if it's an offensive day, there's going to be drills they're doing that are offensive orientated. And maybe we're just giving scout looks. And if it's not coverages we play or fronts we play, sometimes that can get us a little confused if it's my defensive kids giving a scout look. So, you're always talking to your kids about playing hard, running to the ball, and not just lining up to be a scout player or the term, however you want to use the term, the scout team, the look team, whatever it may be. So this gives us a chance to play our defenses, talk to our guys about our fits, talk to our guys about our coverages, because the more, for me, everything we do coverage-wise is based on pictures. So, and I'll get to that in a second, the way we practice today on defense. But if we are playing our base defensive structure and I make no tags whatsoever, my safeties on each side of the formation are expected to make coverage calls based on the picture that they see. So the more opportunities I give those guys to do that, I feel like on our end, we're now getting work while the offense is getting their work. So when we did the yesterday, first day of practice, offensive primary day, we do the shell drill and we didn't script it, right? So offense had their script. They knew what they were running. Defensively, I told our kids, listen, everything that is in the toolbox currently can be called. Don't call the same coverage 2 plays in a row. So, for argument's sake, if we're playing 2-back, like twins open, 2-by-1, 2-back sniffer, 11 personnel, it could be, the Y attached to make it 3-by-1. It could be the Y on the weak side to make it 2-by-2, tight end flanker, slot on the other side, whatever it may be. So if we're playing 2 remove receivers, our guys have 3 to 4 things in the toolbox that they can play, right? So the way we make the drill beneficial for everybody is I tell those guys, play whatever you want, just don't play the same thing twice in a row. So what ends up happening is we're getting reps of different coverages, and then the quarterback is not seeing the same picture for the RPOs or the access every single time. So, without scripting it, but telling the kids, to the single side, they've got 3 things in the menu right now that they can call to a single receiver side. So they can call whatever they want to call to the single side. They just can't call it 2 plays in a row. So what that does for us is it allows our kids to work everything that's in the menu. They have to make calls on their own. And then, conversely, for the offense, it's giving the quarterback a different picture every time he gets up over the ball. So if he's got, a box count, if it's a 6-man scheme and we can block 6 and he's got to handle 7 and 8, well, now I want to change who 7 and 8 are, because now the quarterback's getting good reps. But while I change who 7 and 8 are, we're now making our coverage calls. It's not scripted. It's not diagrammed. It's not, it's not me showing. So like once we get into the season, I run the scout team for the varsity offense. So if it's a defense that needs to be drawn to certain looks and how they're going to play, then I'm the one that has to show the cards to the kids. Hey, I need you to line up like this. This is the stunt. This is the coverage, right? So we're still getting reps, but we're not playing our stuff. So when we can do a drill like this early in the season and we can do it the way that we're doing it, both sides are getting a ton of work. Both sides are, getting football reps, quality reps that we need. And then when we went into our defensive today, we started off with all of our base stuff. We had 1 5-man pressure in and one line game to each side in our tight front. So one game that involves the nose strong side, the nose weak side. So on the back end, though, nothing I did today was scripted. So I told the kids in our meeting, I said, look, here's the deal. When we do half line drills and we do 7-on-7, you're going to call whatever you want to call based on the picture that you see. I am not telling you what to play. And here was the reason we went with that approach today. And this was my thinking on the approach. If they play everything that we can play to certain looks, and then they figure out why certain things are good and why certain things aren't, the more the kids understand the answers and what we need to do, the better off we're going to be when the season comes. So I can control all the answers with tags, and I can say, hey, look, into the boundary, this is what we got to play. To the field, this is what we got to play versus certain looks. Hey, here's our 3-by-1 adjustment. So I can control all those things. And as a coach, obviously you want to be able to control those things, but the more I can get our kids to play everything and then figure out what gives us issues versus certain looks, now the more I can reinforce to say, hey, that's why we never play our cover 2 version to the field. That's why we never play a certain version to the boundary or to the single side if the ball's not into the boundary. So when it's non-scripted, every answer that's in the toolbox, and now this is year 2 as opposed to year 1, right? So last year I couldn't do this. Year 2 now, the kids have been in the system for a year and a half. We've had a full summer. So now going into day 1, we have a full toolbox of things we can pull out. So we can play 2 remove receivers 4 different ways. So now I allow the kids to do that. They're forced to make calls. And then because we film everything, now we can go back and look and go, okay, here's the call we made. Here's the route combination. Here's where we run into issues. So the more you force your kids to understand exactly what you do on defense and why you do it, the better off they're going to be when games come to understand why we don't want to play certain splits, certain deals to the field, why we don't want to play them that way. Now, where it becomes even more beneficial is when you start working in run fits and run game deals. So now on defense, now your kids make certain calls that you don't script. You let them play those calls, and then you start having run fit issues. Now on the back end, the kids start to figure it out, and they go, okay, that's why I don't want to call this when the ball's in the middle of the field. We have a hard time supporting runs to that side. Or based on the personnel that's in, they make a certain call, and I would rather be in a different call. Well, now if we get beaten that call, it gives the kids a chance to see why we don't play certain things to certain looks. So when you get into the season and you start game planning, the kids are going to have a better understanding of what you're trying to do versus a single to the boundary, a single with the ball in the middle, 2 remove to the field, 2 remove to the boundary, trips into the boundary, formation into the sideline stuff. You're building in by allowing the kids to make calls and make mistakes early and having things on film. What you're doing is you're building in a system where kids will now understand why you play what you play and why you make the calls you make. So it's kind of a trial and error system, if you want to look at it that way. I force the kids to make the calls. I don't make the calls for them. They have to see formations. They have to see splits. They have to make the calls. Now, we're still early on, or early enough on, to where they don't truly understand splits, who's lined up where. Like, we're not that far into the system yet, but we're far enough into the system where they have enough tools that they can use, and we force them to call them all, right? So once we get into game plan scenarios and everything else, we'll limit some of that and say, hey, look, to remove this week, we're only going to play these things. And if this is the 2 and this is the 1, this is what we want to play. If the splits are here, based on landmarks, dividers, all those other things, we want to play quarters, not palms. We want to play palms, not quarters. If it's 3-by-1 and this is the number 3, we want to play this. But if this is the number 3, we want to play that, right? Figuring out who their dudes are, where they're lining them up, who's on the ball, who's off the ball, all the good stuff that everybody talks about. But, earlier on in your practices, when you give the keys to the players to say, all right, look, you guys make the calls. You play whatever you call, and then we'll sort out why. And then you let the kids sort out why, right? So, if we make a cover 2 call to the field, all right, and that's a long stretch if they go some type of vertical stretch on us, and now the safety gets in a bind. Well, now I get a chance to tell that safety, hey, look, that's why you don't want to make that call to the field. We can't protect you as much, too much spacing, too much field. Verticals give us an issue. We'd rather be in this. So to me, as the way I look at things as a player in any sport I've ever played, if I do something and I get burned, I learn better to understand why I shouldn't do that. So if you explain it to me on a board, or if you explain it to me with a drawing, or you explain it to me in a playbook, all those things can resonate. But when I go out on the field and call a coverage and we get torched, that's going to resonate, that'll resonate more with me, because now I'm the one that got beat. I have to understand why I got beat. If I have pride in what I'm doing and I'm a competitive person, I don't want to get beat. So now, I'm forced to understand, because of the hot stove theory. Coach, you told me not to call that. I called it, put my hand on the stove, I got burned. So to me, the competitive person that wants to, compete in every drill, every rep, well, now they're starting to figure out what gives them a better chance to compete, right? And again, when it really magnifies is when there's run fit. So as soon as we get gear on and we can physically block runs and fit runs, and we're legally allowed to do that, right? In the state of Florida, the first 5 days are what they call heat acclimation, getting kids used to being in helmets and shoulder pads. There's no body on body contact. You got to use bags. You got to use other things. So we have to work around, how you really want to practice what you're truly trying to do. And, what ends up happening with that is you don't see the full scope of coverages and fronts and run fits until the following week. And now when we get into the following week, now we start to understand, okay, you just called this to this formation. We just got gashed by this run. Let's look at the pieces. Let's figure out why. So when you give your kids that leverage, if you have enough answers in your system, you ask your kids to play different things in your system, depending on the system you carry. When you give them the keys to call it all, now they get a better understanding of why we do what we do, right? So, last year, first year in, everything was scripted. So 3x1 checks, scripted. This is what you got to play. And, to remove, this is what we were playing. Single side, this is what we were playing. Year two, more understanding, more knowledge, returning players in the system. Well, now early on in camp, my deal is, outside of blitzes, line games, the back end of it, they're making the coverage calls. They're having to play what they call. They're now having to live with what they called and figure out why what they called is good or bad. Then they're figuring out route combinations that give us an issue. So then the next step you take is, okay, what'd they just throw? What were we in? How could we protect that? All right, well, coach, if we're getting beat by that combination, I could make this call. That's where you're starting to turn it up to 11 and allow the players ownership of what you are doing, all right, to have them be able to say, coach, this is a better deal. This is the combination. I'd rather be in this, right? So, and towards the end of the year last year, we had a lot of those scenarios where I would make a certain call and kids would come off to the sideline and say, coach, stay out of that. We would rather fit runs in this. All right. So, unless it's what you think is a definite passing down, P and 10, standard downs, let us play base, let us play this. We feel like we fit things faster. We play things better from this look. So as a coach, that's ultimately where you're trying to get to, right? You want your kids to understand what you play, and then you want your kids to understand what your answers are, and then you want your kids to have ownership in the things that you're doing, right? So, a little bit different mindset for us, a little bit different mindset of how we're practicing, allowing the kids to call coverages, allowing the kids to make adjustments, not scripting every single scenario for the kids. And again, complimentary football, I'm letting my offensive coach run run what your stuff, run whatever you want. I don't care what you run. You use this period to get better. You use this period to use your terminology, your route combinations, and we'll defend it, because ultimately we've got to defend all those combination anyways, right? So, I'm not worried about who our kickoff classic opponent is, who our week one opponent is. That has nothing to do with it right now. What I'm worried about is making sure that we can play everything we want to play, making sure our safeties understand the coverages that we're trying to make, the coverage calls that we're trying to make. And, we built in a little bit more freedom for those guys so that they can understand what they're doing. I started the chat off asking everybody. Another thing that I think we do different than a lot of people is we do tackling circuits every day. And the reason we do that um, is because a lot of our kids play special teams, right? So if it's an offensive day, we build at least one tackling drill into our special teams work. And then if it's JV defense is going through full tackling circuits while varsity guys that might be on offense, um, they currently get at least one tackling drill in special teams that we do. And then when they flip, so today the varsity guys were in a full tackle circuit. So 3 different drills. We're an Atavis tackling team. We use Atavis as our tackle analytics, their tacklealytics program. They give us a program. They give us drills that they think we should be using. We send film in today to them. They analyze our game film and come back and say, all right, you're having problems with tracking. You're having problems with, near foot, near shoulder. They give you an analytic report of how much they think the helmet is involved in contact. And then they give you drills to do that they think will help you based on their drill library. So we set up our tackling circuit every day with drills that Atavis has recommended to us. 3 circuits going on. D-line coach has one. Linebacker coach has one. Corners and safeties have one. All the groups are rotating through there. Well, the other group that's on offense is going to get at least one drill that they have to rotate through when they're doing special teams. Now, that'll change when we get into the season. What we will end up doing is we will do tackling circuits almost every day. And at some point, if we're an offensive primary day, towards the end of that practice, we'll have a defensive block. And one of the things will be a tackling circuit. And then after the tackling circuit, we'll go to a team deal or something that we need to hit on defense. And then the following day, when it's defense primary, we're going to do a tackling circuit again. Now, is it the same tackling circuit every day? No. Atavis gives us a drill library. They tell us the things we need to work on. What I do as a defensive coordinator is I try and make it easy on my guys. And I say, okay, here's the 3 drills you're going to do. Here's the 3 drills you're going to do. Here's the 3 drills. So I take maybe, 9 to 12 of the drills that they got. And I give my coaches 3 to 4 drills all year that they're responsible for. They now have a chance to take ownership of those drills. They can study it in the drill library. If there's diagrams or video from Atavis that we can use, even if it's not Atavis, I highly recommend to anybody that can afford to do it, that has the budget to do it, you get with some type of tackling system, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have some type of uniformity, consistency across your entire staff, what you're teaching, how you're teaching it. And when you make your guys do tackling circuits with specific drills, and my suggestion, the way we do it, is I give 3 or 4 drills to each coach in charge. And now we've got maybe 12 drills that we can use throughout the course of the year, but each coach is only doing 4 of them. So he knows that he's got to master those 4 drills. I don't need you to learn right now what the other drills are. If you want to look at those on your own, if you want to, if you get into the stuff that Atavis sends us and you want to research that on your own, that's fine. But you are going to take ownership of these 4 drills, so that when we set our practice plan up, tackling circuits, I list out the tackling circuits and I say, all right, linebacker coach, you've got a 2-step strike drill on a crash mat. All right. Secondary guys, you've got a 2-step strike choice drill where now they've got to work 2 steps into a strike and they don't know which side the back's going. So it's going to be a near foot, near shoulder based on where the back goes. Sometimes it might be a knee strike choice where players start on a knee. All right. Ball carrier rabbit, however you want to look at it, is approaching, and then he chooses a direction. Now we've got to go near foot, near shoulder. That knee comes up. We strike. We do all the things that we need to do. So each coach basically gets the drills that they're responsible for. So now that you're rotating through the tackling circuit, your guys now understand, hey, look, these are the 3 or 4 drills I got to take ownership in. I set the plan up. I go, all right, you guys got strike, crash mat. You've got partner flip game. You've got 1-arm sumo. You've got all the drills that Atavis has already listed for us. They've given them to us in a drill library. So, we keep the terminology the same. We keep everything the same to where when I set it up for the practice plan, they know, all right, tackling circuits today, it's listed on the plan. You know that you're doing a drill. You know the drill that you're doing. So when we get out to the field, the first thing that those guys have to do is set up their tackling circuit pre-practice. get that ready to go so that when we go to the tackling circuit, we're not wasting any time, um, you know, setting things up, setting drills up. The drills are already set up. So, that's one of the things that we do different, I think, than a lot of other people. Tackling circuits for us are going to be right now, they're 5 days a week. Once we get into the season, they're going to be at least 3 days a week, or the 3 days that we possibly have gear on. And if we don't have gear on, then we're going to do all the drills that we do in the summer and all the drills that we work on that we don't need to have gear on. So we're going to work on positions, closing, a lot of vice drills, two-man vice drills, different cone drills where we change the angles, teaching them leverage, teaching them near foot, near shoulder, how to close, how to track. So, doing all those things so that now every day we're getting an opportunity. And then, like I said, I think the thing that we do a little bit different is we tie that into our special teams as well. So usually when you're doing special teams, you're going to do more tracking. You're going to do more of your open field drills where there's tracking a hip involved and there's cutback involved and there's closing space and all those things. And that's usually going to involve your skilled players, and you're not making your bigs do those drills as often. One of the things that I am kind of adamant about with our tackling circuits is if we're going to do it in a traditional circuit and it's not going to be done in an indie period, I need to keep the circuit conducive to things that the bigs can do. And if it's a drill that I don't like with the bigs, when they get in, I either narrow the space. So if it's a cone game or a tracking drill that I don't think our bigs have to worry about as much as our skills, well, then I just condense the cones or the area that they're in, and I take the space away. So it's the same drill. It's just done in a smaller space. So I think one thing you got to keep in mind when you're doing tackling stuff is, your bigs don't have to do the same things your other guys do all the time. So if you have 3 circuits going on and one of them is a big closed space tracking drill, you probably need to change that for your D line, right? So those are all things you got to figure out as a coach, with how you're doing things, what you're doing, what you're trying to do. Post practice today, we got a chance to steal some install time. So I got 2 of our other pressures installed today. So now Thursday, when we come back, the way we practice tomorrow, our varsity guys will go back to offense primarily, and our JV guys will be on defense. So we won't get a look at the varsity guys again until Thursday. So we got a chance after practice today to, we didn't have a run fit period today that was full live. So there's not a lot of cleanup to do with our fits and how we're, our block wreck, our block destruction. There's not a lot of that going on. So instead of having a post-practice cleanup period, all right, we had a special teams. We installed punt block, and then I got a chance to install 2 blitzes out of our base front. So now Thursday, we're already ahead of the game with the install. I can add more things onto the install on Thursday because I was able to steal some time today, right? So when you're early on in camp and you're early on in practice, those are all the things that you got to look at. Where are you stealing your time? Where are you getting your reps? What things are you working on? We combined one of our formation periods with a pursuit period to where now we're doing both things at the same time. So there's a formation identification period that we also turn into a pursuit drill. And now we're making our kids line up the formations. We're making them make coverage calls, and then they're having to pursue a certain direction to the sideline. Ball comes out, another formation, get lined up, make your coverage calls. Where's the Sam? Now we pursue in a different direction. So constantly kind of trying to find ways to, evaluate what you're doing. How much time do you have? What are you trying to do with your practice plan? That's what coaching is. It's an everyday constant state of improvise, adjust, adapt, overcome, finding ways to make your practice plan better. That's what we do, right? That's the world that we live in. And now that's where we are full go again. So, it's that time of year where that's the mindset now. I've got to be thinking about practices every day. I got to think about how we can be more efficient with practices. I've got to meet afterwards with the head coach and say, hey, was that good? Was that good for you? Was that good for us? Did we get the reps we needed? We are fortunate enough at our school that we've got a drone camera angle, and we've got our sideline or end zone camera angle. So everything we're doing is being filmed from different angles. We didn't get a chance to go back and look at that, post-practice when it gets loaded up. And now we can look and go, all right, we need to make a change to that drill. All right, we're struggling here. We need to add this drill in. We put our periods together at the end of practice. He says, what do you need tomorrow? All right, I think we need to do this. What are you doing on your side? all the things that go into making a practice plan, being a coordinator, working with your head coach, complimentary football. Like it's all well and good for me on the defensive side to say, hey, coach, I need these periods. Well, if I can find periods where he can be involved doing things with his offense, and there are things that are going to work for me as well. Well, now, so we don't grade practices, Carlos, but one thing we started doing this year was with our game strat stuff. We're a game strat team. That's what we use our sideline replay. In the offseason, we bought one of those sideline boxes that have a TV that come in them and a sound system. So we're one of those teams. Our coach allows our guys, we play music during practice. So the sound system now allows us to play music. And then when our game strat and that camera is up and functioning, one of the things that we built into practice was after certain periods, we get, a 5-minute water break and then a 5-minute period where we can bring the kids over to the TV and show them what we just did in the RPO shell drill, skeleton, tackling circuits, whatever we want to show them, we can bring them over and we can show them the mistakes we made, the corrections. Do we fully grade our players in practice? No, we do not. We talk about effort. One of the things we do on certain days, our head coach will assign a defensive coach and an offensive coach. He usually does it with a towel. But what he does is he'll have one person responsible on camera that when the whistle blows, they either drop the towel or they wave the towel. And then what we're able to do is we're able to look like on defense, we look at loafs all the time. So if we're watching film and you can't always tell when the whistle blew, if you can see the coach that's responsible for the towel, well, now I can see when that coach either waves the towel, drops the towel, whatever our signal is or our cue is, when he does that, if I don't see guys continuing to run to the ball, now we kind of give our guys loafs and then they'll have extra conditioning or work afterwards. But as far as a full grade, no, we do not grade our practices. I know some people do that. Now, I'll give you, since you asked that question, and it's a great question, here's my opinion on grading game performances. If you don't have anybody else to play, what good does the grade do? So I've been doing this a long time, head coach for 24 years, defensive coordinator the last year and a half, a GA in college when I first started. So I've seen everything the way it's done, how it should be done. I've seen full out grading systems. I've worked with companies that have software to create grading systems for your players. My concern all the time was if you're going to use a grading system with players, then the grading system you're using should be more informational for the player himself. Because I've been in a world where I can grade a guy out poorly. If I don't have another kid to play that can play better than him, I've got to figure out a way to get that kid to play better. And if your grading system is something you use to get that kid to play better, then I'm all for it. Ours is more of a breakdown with corrections to where after every game, our position coaches will go in and take clips from film and we'll be making corrections on things that we need to make. Now certainly if we are in a situation where we are very competitive at a position, that might change my mindset a little bit. But the only reason as a head coach I got away from full grading was it was taking a lot of time and effort away from my coaches. And if we didn't have another player to put in, like I had a guy that was adamant about it early on in my career, and I let him do it. I had no problem with it. And then about the third weekend, I came in and I said, all right, coach, you've graded this kid out at 70, 65, 75. Who's going to play next week? He said, oh, no, he's still playing. I said, well, then, tell me what are you doing with that grading system? If the kid is not playing up to par and we don't have anybody else to play, then, either you need to change your system to where instead of a grade, it's some type of correction or some type of deal that you're building into drills where you show them the grade and you go, hey, guys, look, here's what we graded out on. We are struggling with block rec. We are going to do a ton of block rec drills this week. Because normally if the grade was that poor, like if I was playing, when I played receiver in college, if I came in and got a grade the next week and the grade was that poor, there's probably somebody else that's going to get my reps, right? So, and again, like everything else I've ever done on YouTube, Play Fast Football, it's all my opinion. I'm not saying that, you should or shouldn't grade. I'm telling you why I don't. Um, and again, the reason behind that is if I can't replace a player that grades out poorly, sometimes I think we could be focusing our time and our energy and our efforts as a coaching staff in other directions. Does that mean we don't look at performance? No, that doesn't mean that at all. We just have a different way of evaluating what we're doing, what we need to be doing, what we need to be correcting. And then, if it's the same kid in the game, then we better find a way during practice that week to address the things that kid needs to get better at, if that makes sense. So, again, by no means am I saying don't grade. That's not what I'm saying. By no means am I saying, uh, if that's what you do, stop doing it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it doesn't work for me because a lot of the programs I've been at, I don't have a guy to put in when somebody grades out poorly. I think grades work really, really well when it's clear and concise, and this is what we are grading you on. And if you don't grade out well, I've got somebody else that I can play. That I am all in favor for. I think any way you can motivate and challenge people, but I think every program is unique to itself because you have to have bodies to challenge. You have to have other players to play because otherwise, there's no threat to the grade. The grade is more of an evaluation tool for you to use with a player to go, all right, look, we're having a real hard time in man coverage deals. We need to do a bunch of man coverage work. We're having a real hard time playing these coverages, or you're really struggling. If we're playing sky support with a safety, hey, we're really struggling with our run pass reads. We're really struggling. Let's use the grading system as a way to evaluate what we're going to do the following week in practice. So again, it's not for it, against it. I don't use it for that reason, the reasons that I just laid out. If one of my coaches wanted to grade as an assistant on defense, I'm not going to stop him from grading. I'm just going to give him my opinion on all those things and say, okay, coach, if I look at that grade 3 weeks in and it's C, D, C, 75, 70, if you don't have somebody else to play, what are we really doing with the grading system? That would be my only question. So I think if it fits your program and that's what you want to do as an assistant coach, by all means, do it. I just, for me, it doesn't get the value it should get. So good evening, Gumby. I hope you're doing all right. So, and again, those are all the things we need to do as coordinators. I need to find a way to take my guys and say, all right, guys, if these are the players we got and we don't have anybody else to challenge them, how do we need to get better? What do we need to improve on? Are there things we should be doing, shouldn't be doing? Are there fronts we shouldn't be in? Are there pressures we shouldn't be in? Are there deals that are better for us? Is there a way to protect our nose or our foreye? Do we have a nose that we should probably move all the time? That's the beauty of our business. That's the beauty of what we do. And that's the beauty of this time of year, right? So we have no idea. We think, every coach thinks they're going to be good, bad, decent, competitive, right? We all have an idea going in, but we really don't fully know until we start banging around, doing things live, playing that first classic. Like where a lot of you guys are, you may get a chance to scrimmage some people before you ever play a game, right? So like the guys like Pete that were on Long Island forever, and I grew up on Long Island, we wouldn't have a preseason game, but we might have 4 scrimmages against other teams on Saturdays or whatever that we get a chance to look at. In Florida, we get a kickoff classic. And usually when you play that kickoff classic, you play your starters a half, and then your backups a quarter, your JV kids a quarter. So even though we get a game, and a lot of people say, well, coach, you guys get a kickoff classic game and you got referees and you got all these other things. Well, if you could give me 4 scrimmages with controlled reps with a coaching staff that I like practicing against, I'll take 4 scrimmages every day of the week. Knock on wood, nobody gets hurt. But so, I think every state and every system has pros, cons, pluses, minus, positives, negatives. Yeah, we have a kickoff classic game. Great. If we play starters in a half, what do I do on defense? Like when I was a head coach, we're going to play our starters in a half, but the other team was a ground and pound team, and their first drive was 8 minutes. We get the ball back. We go 3 and out. Well, the second quarter's here already, and we got 3 reps with our starters on offense, but we're not playing them in the second half. I would much rather get controlled scrimmage reps. So, for us, we won't really know we'll have an idea in practice. We'll get an idea in that first half of the kickoff classic, but you know, it'll be that constant state of each week figuring out what our players can do, what they can't do, what fronts and coverages work for us, what do we need to protect on the back end, what do I need to protect on the front end. That's our job. That's what we get paid for. That's what makes, coaching the thing that coaching really is. So each one of you, if you're coaching a program out there, as your practices start, as you go through, your scrimmages, practices, whatever drills, periods, everything you're doing, you're constantly looking at things and evaluating, okay, do we have the right guys on the field? 1, do we have to change positions? 2, do we have depth? 3, do the schemes fit the guys we have? Right. So, we all have these schemes that we want to play, and we all have our system that we want to coach and get guys to fit into. Well, maybe our kids that we have right now can't play that system. Right. So last year we're tight 3 high. Well, if we can't play tight 3 high this year, then it's my job to fix that. It's my job to figure out exactly what we do, how we do it. And, when you get back to school and you get back to practice every day, and now everything's being filmed and you're getting huddle clips and all these other things and your game strat, stuff that you use and you get a chance to look at, we're back in that mode now, right? That's what we're doing. We're back. If you're not, a lot of you guys up north probably aren't back in school yet, won't be back in school for a little while, maybe didn't start practice yet, but, we're now in that mode again. We're out of off-season mode. We're out of summer mode. We're out of experimentation mode. And now we're into the mode of having to design practices, get everything ready to go with our periods, make sure our 2 hours are the way we need them. Where are we going to work special teams in there? How often are we tackling? How are we splitting our drills up? If we've got half line drills and run fit drills, who's going to run fit? Who's going to half line? Who's in charge? Like, one of the big things, and this, I give this piece of advice to everybody I can give it to. If you are a coordinator or a head coach, one of the biggest things you got to do is you got to teach your coaches how to coach at practice. So one of the things I'm always on my guys about is every day there's a practice plan. And on a practice plan for every period, it tells you, all right, during this period, the linebacker is going to be here and they're doing this, and the safety is going to be here and they're doing that. Well, a lot of times young coaches look at the practice plan and they just try to figure out throughout the course of the practice plan where they need to be. And maybe they plan out their indie period, right? So maybe they script out their indie period and they say, all right, I got 15 minutes of indie. This is what I need to accomplish. But the other periods, they just kind of look at to see, all right, where do I need to be during this period? Where do I need to be? As opposed to the guys that have been around the block for a while, they look at that period and they go, okay, we got a half line period. We're working a 2 receiver side and a back, and we're working a single side and a back, and we're working our coverages. So if I'm coaching corners, when I look at that, I need to understand, okay, what's my rotation going to be at corner? I need to make sure that guys get the field side, 2-man, 3-man concepts. And then I need to make sure that corners get the boundary side, because we don't flip our corners currently. We may go field boundary. That may be something we have to do. But currently our corners and our safeties don't change sides. So there's no telling based on what the offense does if you're going to be on the 2 receiver side, 3 receiver side, single receiver side, into the boundary, to the field. So my job as a corners coach, all right, so, as a coordinator, I coach the safeties. We've got a run fit period going on that safeties need to be at. We've got a half line period that safeties need to be at. When that practice plan comes out, and obviously I'm making a lot of it, I need to understand how I'm going to rotate the safeties through each drill. So if run fits is going on 30 yards away from me and half line drills are going on here, well, the half line drill, I need to make sure that safeties get the 2-man side and the single side. And then I need to make sure that those safeties get to the run fits. The guys from the run fits got to come over to the half line. So, as far as coaching coaches, there's more to just reading the practice plan and saying, okay, here's where I am. Here's my indie. Here's what I'm doing. You've got to figure out how to fit. Do you need coaches to run a scout team? Do you need coaches to do certain things in drills? And early on in practice in camp, this is where you should be ironing all those things out. Just like I said with tackling circuits, it should be ironed out where the coaches know, hey, coach, here's the drills you're responsible for. Each day I'm going to post what tackling circuit we're doing. You've got your 3 or 4 drills that you got to own. Hey, coach, when we do this formation period, I need you to take ownership of lining up 5 skills, get trash cans ready, set the trash cans up as the O-line, left hash mark, right hash mark, whatever it may be, getting guys to take ownership into practice so that they understand I'll take it a step further. Knowing when you're going to need pennies or bonnets or things like that, we've all been there. We've all seen it. The practices where it's on the script, you know what you're about to do. And when you go to do it, there's no bonnets, pennies. If you don't have different colored jerseys, helmet, bonnets, old school pullover pennies, whatever it may be. Well, if the practice plan was already made and you get a chance to look at it, well, then when you go to that period, somebody on your staff needs to know that you're going to need bonnets. You're going to need pennies. Now, as a head coach, which I don't have to worry about it as much anymore, as a head coach, that might be something you have to map out and tell people what to do. Eventually, what you would like to get your coaches to understand is each period that you have coached in, that you understand what is going on, how can I make that period better? Coach, what do you need me to do? All right, well, if it takes understanding that we need trash cans, we'll make sure we have trash cans. If we need bonnets or pennies, make sure that we have bonnets or pennies. Like every coach can take ownership in that. And that comes with experience. And that comes with guys, instructing people on how to do a more efficient job, right? So, getting guys to understand, like the way our practices work, I am going to have to go with the varsity offense when they're doing the RPO shell period, when they're doing skeleton. I need to go over there because I need to control the coverages that the head coach, offensive coach needs. So I need to go there. Well, that means I can't be with the JV. So now my other coaches on defense have to be able to understand whatever period we're in, what scout cards do they need, who's got the scout cards, who's running the scout team, who's left to coach what positions. If I can't be there and I coach the safeties, somebody's got to be able to at least get them lined up. And if I have to fix it on film, I can fix it on film. But these are all the things that are kind of advanced in the coaching world, where when you've been doing it for a while, or you get new kids or new guys coming in, it's like, all right, guys, you got to learn how to function inside of a practice plan. And those to me are like the hidden gems, or the things that nobody ever talks to you about. How can this practice move? How can it flow? How can we get the most out of it? Without guys just saying, I think most coaches are good enough to look at a plan and go, okay, I need to be here. I need to be here. I need to be here. I think guys know where they're going. I think they know where they're supposed to be. But the efficiency of what you're trying to do and the flow of the practice goes a step further when those guys know all the pieces that are needed in the drill, right? All the pieces that are needed for that drill to be successful, whether it be bonnets, pennies, trash cans, scout cards, somebody running the scout team. That's how you get to the next level of practices. That's how you build efficiency. Now, head coach can control all that. He can give everybody their jobs. This is what we're doing. Here's what you're in charge of. That's the easiest way to do it. The best way, in my opinion, through years of experience, is when you have guys who take ownership, that know, hey, we're going to this next period. I know we're going to need bonnets or pennies. There's coaches grabbing them so that when you get to that drill, you don't have to say, hey, guys, can somebody grab the bonnets? Can somebody grab the pennies? Can you assign that? Sure, you can. But, to me, that's where younger coaches, new guys that are a little bit green, that's where they need to be coached up. And that's part of what we are doing. That's part of the educational process of how we are teaching coaches. And it's part of our flow. It's part of our practice. Everybody has seen practices that have a great flow to them. They're moving well, highly functioning. Everything's going the way you want it, right? That's the goal for every staff to get to, right? I don't want to have to explain every drill. I don't want to have to explain. That should all be done prior. Hey, guys, is there any questions about the tackling circuits we're doing? If come in the office, here's the drill tape, here's the library, here's what you need to do, right? But guys also need to take ownership of that and go, all right, hey, coach, this says knee strike choice. I have no idea. Can you show me knee strike choice? Okay, that's what we need to get to, right? Those are all the things in coaching that nobody tells you about. Everybody tells you about X's and O's. Everybody tells you about, hey, we want to be a run and shoot team. We want to be a wing T team. We want to RPO. We want to be an odd team. We want to be an even team. I want to play split field, middle of the field open. I want to play rip, Liz match. That's kind of the reason why guys get into it. The X's, the O's, the schemes, the play calls, the Friday night calls. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And we're only in our second day of it. And like I said, there's that kind of the I don't want to say the dread. You wouldn't do this if there was dread, but kind of that mental fatigue that comes with, man, the next 4 months is just a straight grind. And I know it's going to be 6 days a week. And I know it's going to be, and I know my time is going to be, all consumed by this like I like to say, sickness, disease that we all have, right? We're all football coaches. Um, 7-man spacing or 7-man. Remember, I'm not a space. I don't know how to speak spacing language or 7-man football. Um, so again, but like I said, once you get in, like we're 2 practices down, and I'm already back in that mode. It just happens automatically. You know, once it takes over, teachers went back today. You just get back in that mode. That's what we do. That's who we are. We're all creatures of habit as coaches. Um, no, I don't think it's much different at all. I mean, 7-man football's got certain rules, certain schemes, certain things you need to do. I think practices should be set up the same way. You just got to make your drills conducive to 7-man football. Your schemes have to be conducive to 7-man football. Like to me, it's all the same thing. If I coached a flag team, I wouldn't do it any different. The practices are going to be structured. Here's the time periods. Here's what we're doing. Here's the drills that we need to do to make these pieces better. Here's team periods. Here's half line periods or whatever. So like in today's practice, really the only defensive team periods that we had with a full unit were formational periods and pursuit periods. Those are the only 11-man pieces in today's practice. Every other piece of today's practice was run fits with half line, pass skill with pass rush. I mean, that's what football is. And I think if you're old school, so I'll be 51 in August. Well, 35 years ago, an hour and a half of practice was 11 on 11. I grew up on Long Island. We had 3 coaches. All right. And, 3 coaches for the entire varsity program. It's hard to do half line drills. It's hard to do specific drills when you only have 3 coaches. Well, now, I've got 5 guys on the defensive side of the ball alone. Coach has 6 on his side. We've got 11, 12 guys out there. And that's probably small compared to a lot of schools, right? So, your practices all need to be conducive to your staff, what you can get done. But I wouldn't approach 7-man football, flag football. I would, the only different approach would be schematically, what are we doing? I would still have things split up into individual work. I would have, your technique and fundamental periods. I would have group work. I would have teamwork. I would have everything I could do to keep the structure the same, and then put, kind of whole part whole, put everything together. Now, once we get pads on, there's more team settings and all those things. Like I know it's early in camp, but that's really the way practices function. That's what people have to learn in the coaching profession, is how things function when it's not just, hey, so you mean we don't go out there and play our 11 against their 11 for an hour and a half? No, that's not what we do. There's so many things that are going on positionally, small group, bigger groups, special teams. There's so many things and moving pieces that are involved in a practice every day that people have to get used to. And they have to get used to what their jobs are, what their role is in practice. That's, again, when you get into this time of year, those are the constant issues that you have. One of the things that's made life a lot easier is like Google Sheets, Google Docs. Now you can have practice plans that are, everyday kind of working, changing documents, so that if the head coach makes a change on that document in the morning, I can see that change. I can understand where I need to make a change. Or if if my head coach sends me something and say, hey, I've got skeleton scripted, script the defense, what you want to run, and then you'll be over with us during that period. Like, in the old days, it used to be you'd have to make a schedule, a script. Everybody does, you don't get it until you show up at practice. Maybe you could email it and share it with people. But now with like Google Docs and Google Sheets and all that, the stuff is so much easier to use now. I think you have to learn technology and how to use it right as a coach. But once you learn it, it's so much easier. So like every day when I look at the practice plan, I can see if there were changes made. I can see, what our head coach is trying to do. I can see what, sorry, I'm going to telling me that there's ads that are going to be run. I'm going to skip those ads. You guys don't need to see that. So, I can control what I need to do on defense. What scripts do we need? So, now that we're back in school, teachers every day, we got meetings going on. We've got 9 million things that we got to do as teachers. He can just shoot me a text and say, hey, check the practice plan. I need you to script this, or I need you to script that. If it's a scout look, then he's going to come out with the cars and say, hey, come over here and I need you to run this. So, those are all the parts to me. Like we could have 17 YouTube lives that don't even talk about schemes. We could talk about practice efficiency, practice organization, practice structure, how you're filming things, how you're, either grading, fixing, critiquing things. That's a conversation of a whole another direction, right? Most people, when they come on a YouTube live, probably want to talk about quarters and palms and pressures and tight front and even front and 3 high and 2 high. And, I get it. That's the eye candy. That's what everybody wants. But, you know, part of the deal for me is you're trying to at least give back to a game that has been so good to you. I want to give back to coaches with, and most of the things I give back are things that I've screwed up, right? So things that, again, 24 years of head coaching experience, I've made a million mistakes that I don't want other people to make. I've done things that could have been done so much better and so much more efficiently. I don't want people to have to go through that when I can just give my opinion to say, hey, here's what I think is a better way to do that. Here's what we're doing. If we come up or a drill that works really well for us. So I love the way we do our RPO stuff on offense and defense. I'm going to share that with other people and tell them, hey, if you're, looking for a better way to do this, here's a way to do it that I think works really well, because, that's what it's all about. It's all about giving back to the game, the profession. And we talked about this last week. Once we're in the season, you're not going to get a chance to go to clinics. You're not going to get a chance to go to colleges. You're not going to. Your only answers you're going to get are from your colleagues. The only answers you're going to get are going to be from people that are doing the same thing as you. So, the more that you can share that information, the more that you can communicate that information. When we did all the Zoom clinics that we did, the majority of the Zoom clinics I did were high school coaches. Why? Because I want guys to hear and learn from guys that are on the same playing field. What do you deal with at your school with 26 players? All right. I can't go to a clinic with Alabama talking about practices if I got 26 guys. I need to go somewhere that has 26 guys and figure out how the hell did they get this done? So, it's all about trying to build off of, and for me, it's all about building off of all the things that I've done wrong, all the drills that could be better, how to do tackling circuits better, all the things that I think you should do based on years of screwing it up, right? Based on years of making mistakes. Or, back in New York, you would say, hey, got to get your ass chapped every once in a while. You got to understand that you got to have thick skin. You got to learn all these things. You got to learn all these life's lessons, and then hopefully you'll never do them again. That's one of the reasons I was coming on here to talk to you guys about the way we practice today. I gave my back end secondary linebackers, I gave them a chance to call everything today, to play everything based off of what they were calling. And then I gave them a chance to get burned. I gave them a chance to get that ass ripped a little bit and figure out what happened. That's how most people learn. That's how most competitors learn. That's how most individuals that are, involved and very, caring, compassionate about what they do, energetic about what they do, want to put forth the best effort for their program. That's how they learn. They have to get in the heat, in the fire. They've got to get burned. They've got to get scarred. You got to learn that way. So, that's one of the reasons we did what we did today. When I was younger, every practice was scripted. Every call we made on defense, hey, here's what you're playing today. 2 removed, you're playing this. 3-by-1, you're playing this. Single side, you're playing this. And there were baby steps, and it was very controlling. Well, I'm older now. I've learned. I kind of figure out how our kids learn a little bit better. So now I take a different approach. I give our kids a chance to call every coverage. I give our kids a chance to make mistakes. Early on in my career, I was so worried about the results that in practice, I didn't want to get ripped. So I said, hey, single side, we're going to play this. 2 remove, we're going to play this. I didn't give guys a chance to make a ton of mistakes because I was, competitive with the other coordinator, the other coach, whoever it may be. Everything was so competitive that I always wanted to be in the perfect call, the right call. And I've kind of changed my mindset on that early on. Right now, I want to be in every call, and I want our kids to play every call. And then I want them to figure out what is good, what isn't good, what we play. And then I want corners and safeties and backers. I want them to figure out what their skill set is. All right. So you guys tell me why we struggle in this call, why we, and then you got to have that conversation with the kid to say, look, you're not the greatest man player. He's not the greatest, whatever. Here's the deal. When you guys are in, we need to play these coverages because they fit your skill set. And I don't think that's a bad conversation to have with players because you're trying to protect them, right? That's our job as coaches. I'm trying to put you in the best position to be competitive and win games. So if I know what your skill set is, I can't ask you to do things outside of your skill set. That's kind of dumb as a football coach or a coordinator. So early on in camp, early on in practices, this is your time to do all those things. This is your time to let the kids grow a little bit. Let the kids learn a little bit. Let them figure out why the pieces fit the way they fit. So, of all the guys that are on here now, how many people are already practicing right now? How many seasons have started? So there's 9 guys in the chat right now, 9 guys on the YouTube Live. How many people are actually physically doing it right now? Or if you're not doing it right now, if you're coaching, when do you start? And then, twofold question. If you're doing it right now, how are you practicing? What's working? What's not working? What would you change? What would you like to do better? If you're not practicing right now, when practices come up, what are you excited about? What do you think you need to do different? Because again, like you've got to take a vested interest in what's going on. You got to figure out what works and what doesn't. You've got to figure out, what you're doing. Are you talking about like double tight, 3-back, full house tee? Get 13 guys in a box. Yeah, I'll do the best I can, Carlos. I've never defended that offense per se, every down, every rep, maybe short yardage at times. If it's 4-2-5, obviously everything's going to start 8-man front, and then you're going to try and get a 9th and a 10th helmet. So, maybe based on the tendencies, maybe there's a way you can play almost a double robber concept. So you're playing an 8-man front. If there's no wideouts and there's just tight ends, maybe it's an 8-man front, but you've got, whether it's corners, extra safeties, personnel deal, you might have 2 guys that are playing off the tight end. So if they're in the if they're in the blocking scheme, that's going to be the 9th and the 10th hat. Maybe you have a guy in the middle that can fit. Again, I haven't seen that offense enough to know who your opponents are, but like we used to play single wing teams, and you'd always try and figure out what the best key was. Whether it was, the front side wing, or whether it was the front side guard or the back side guard. Like, you'd get in a deal where maybe you'd have whatever your 8-man front coverage structures are, and then maybe you'd have one guy that fit off the fullback because he takes you to 90% of the plays, and he's going to mirror the fullback and fit off him. To me, that offense is a little bit of an anomaly. So I think your defense is going to be a little bit of an anomaly. It's going to be about helmets. It's going to be about hats. Are they foot-to-foot splits? Are you getting, there's going to be so many things involved there with how you set the front, what you're trying to do. Is it a district opponent? Is it a game that you absolutely have to win, or is it just a week one? Or yeah, that's always going to be a problem, Marcus. We struggle with the same thing. Quality reps, good on good. If our guys are playing both ways, if they have their good, is it really our good? Are we getting any better if it's not good on good? Small roster size, small school, not wanting, when you get into the season, it becomes about getting guys hurt and all those things. But, I don't think that's a Marcus Jones problem. I think that's a football problem in general. We deal with the same thing. If we've got what we think are our starters on defense and they have theirs on offense, how many reps can we get good? Because his guys are probably my backups and my guys are probably his backups. And then we got to control that scenario so that we don't waste time. So if all of a sudden it's second offense and I lose 2 backers, a safety and a corner, well, I've got to be able to replace that so that we're not standing there for 10 minutes to get reps. That's pretty much traditional issue at a lot of high schools. We're all dealing with it. We're all going through it. Maybe you can do half-line stuff, Marcus, to get good on good. Like maybe you can break drills into, maybe center guard tackle with 3 technique, 5 technique, Mike Will, whatever. Like might be able to split it up that way if your numbers are an issue. I've seen people that do that. More segmented half line work than full team stuff because you don't have enough to do it. That again, that's improvise and adjust. That's obviously if you've been doing this for a while or if you've been at small schools before, the shit that absolutely doesn't work. And the stuff maybe that does, and you're trying to mix in all of those ideas so that you can, again, the thing about coaching that makes it so unique is we all have a different issue. We have a different issue of what we're facing, what we're dealing with. We all have the same dilemma at the end of the day. We all have to get results. I think we all get them in different ways, but we're all at different programs. Like some people, you might have 5 or 6 guys on your staff. You got to practice differently. Another person on this YouTube Live might have 13 coaches. They can do things differently. Maybe you don't have managers. Maybe you don't have anybody to film. I've been at places where backup quarterbacks, when they're not in, are asked to film. Punters or kickers, if they're not in, are asked to film. Like I've seen guys do it so many ways because at the end of the day, you just got to get a job done. And to me, that's what makes our profession and football coaches, and any coach in general of a sport, but like nobody cares about the dilemma. Nobody cares about the roster size. Nobody cares about how many coaches you have. At the end of the day, you care, and you're going to make that argument to administration and go, hey, how do you want me to do this with 5 guys? The teams we're playing have 13 coaches out there. And then on game night, you show them the sideline. You go, hey, look at our staff. Look at their staff. This is what we're competing against. What would you like us to do? Do we have an answer? Can we get better? Can we fix this? Is it possible to fix it? Because at the end of the day, nobody cares about that. Like I've been fired twice as a head coach, right? I've been there. Nobody cares about the situation. Nobody cares about, did you have the right access to hiring teachers that are coaches? Could you build your staff the right way? What's the talent level of the team? Nobody cares when you get fired. It's just like, hey, we're going in a different direction. You're not the right guy. That's the nature of our business, right? So, we all have the same different scenarios, obviously, but we all have our own problems, right? Vanderbilt's got problems, but Alabama has problems. Duke has problems, but Georgia has problems. Now, maybe on game day, you'd like to have Georgia's problems more than Vanderbilt's. I get it. But in the offseason, the Vanderbilt coach isn't going through half the stress that Kirby Smart is, and he's not answering half those questions on SEC Media Day about 68 traffic violations, people dying in traffic accidents. These guys got arrested. Like every school has issues. Every school has problems. Within our program, we need to justify which problems are the real problems. Which problems do we have to keep a lid on so they don't magnify into bigger problems? And then, within, whether it's with administration, parents, whatever it may be, which hill are we willing to die on? If we do have to take things to the next level, is that really a hill that we want to die on? If it's a coaching staff dilemma with the administration, is that something that they'll listen to? Do you want to die on that hill going in there and saying, hey, look, I got 5 guys. Every team on my schedule has 13 coaches. How do you expect us to compete with that? Well, knowing your administration, knowing who you're working for, that may be a bitch behind closed doors that you never bring up because that's not a hill that you should die on. It might cost you your job, right? So we're all going through it. We go through different things. Our issues, things that are really good at my place are issues for other people, but issues at my place are really good at other places. So, the grass isn't always greener. It's not per se go choose somewhere else or do something, another place or another program because it's going to get easier. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got issues. And this time of year, they're all going to arise. And, the knowledgeable coaches that care about what they're doing are going to figure out a way to fix it and compete. And the guys that, either don't care as much or they're just going to say, hey, we can't compete with this roster. We can't compete right now. We don't have a quarterback. We don't have this. And then there's other guys that are going to figure out, all right, we don't have a quarterback, so we're going to change what we do. And we're going to find a way to compete doing this, right? So, we're back in it now. Everybody's back in it. You're either practicing right now or you're getting ready to practice. If you're currently not working as a football coach, you're on a Tuesday night, if you're on a YouTube Live with a guy talking football, you either want to be a football coach, you're going to get back into football, or you're currently coaching. So, that's where we're at right now. That's what we're doing. That's what I'm working on. Those are some of the deals. Like I said earlier, RPO drill, both sides of the ball, tremendous. If you don't do it, if you carry RPOs or you need to defend them, I would certainly recommend as a coach putting in a 10-minute period that is nothing but 11 on 11, these schemes, even if it's just trash cans that you're blocking, get your back end guys on defense lined up, making coverage calls, get your backers fitting off of power counter, split zone, whatever their reads and keys are, however they need to fit. Um, tackling circuits every day, something that I would certainly do this time of year. Find a way to build it into your practice, find a way to build it in, give guys ownership for the drills that they're doing. If you need to build one into a special team circuit, find a way to do those things because they're going to show up in the long run. If you have access to a tackling system, there's several different ones out there. Like I said, we're an Atavist team. That's who we use. I highly recommend it to anybody. If it's not for you, then there's other things. Get guys on the same page with tackling. The end of the day, we don't need guys telling, hey, how do we get that MF on the ground? How do we get them on the ground? Yeah, I get it, coach. But if, as a defensive staff, if we had a method to how we tackled and we all taught the same terminology and we all understand what near foot, near shoulder is, and we all understand how we're going to keep our helmet out of contact, and we all understand what a two-man vice is and where we're trying to leverage the ball to, the more we are on the same page as a staff, then the better we're going to get. Keeping your coaches adjusted to practice plans. If we're all on the same plan, same page with the practice plan, we're going to have better practices. Those are all the things that we should be working on. Is anybody else other than Carlos? I am going to try. I will investigate that. I will take a look into it and see if I can do it justice. Anybody else have any recommendations for? So James, on the defensive side, I've got a D-line coach. I have an everyday inside linebacker coach. I have a guy that I give the outside linebackers to, but he's also our video tech guy. So he's got a million other jobs he's doing. I coach all three safeties. So I coach the two high safeties and the middle safety, and I have a corners coach. So I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 to 5 I have 4 that I know every day, and then a 5th I can use for certain things if we have enough people there to take care of the video technology side. On the offensive side, we have an O-line coach. We have an adjunct that helps us with JV O-line when he is there, but his job is not conducive to being there every day. Our head coach is on the offensive side of the ball, usually with quarterbacks. We have a running backs coach and 2 guys that work with receivers. So I think we've got about 11. Now, there's only 5 in the building. So we have 11 coaches, but only 5 in the building. So 6 of them are adjunct guys. So that to me is another piece of the puzzle. Yes, we have 11 guys that practices most days, but we only have 5 guys in the building. So, as far as things that are going on a day-to-day basis, being able to talk to people about practice plans, other things, the adjuncts are guys you constantly have to stay in contact with, whether it's email, text. They've got to be looking at Google Sheets, Google Docs, because they make their living a different way and they coach because they love to coach. So I think we have about probably 10 every day, an 11th guy, but he's also the video tech guy, 5 in the building, 6 adjuncts. So probably just as good, if not better than most places. Nowhere near probably Georgia, Texas, some places, probably way better than some other areas. I mentioned earlier, I grew up on Long Island. We had 3 coaches. It is what it is. So, but again, I think within that scope, you now have to change what you do based on who you have. And that's the everyday ebb and flow, the improvise and adjust. And here's the perfect example of that. Summer is the biggest crapshoot of all because people are on vacation, players are on vacation. So you make out a summer plan to say, guys, this is what we're doing tomorrow. And then when you get there, you don't have the coaches to do it. You got to change, right? So our business, our world, what we do, improvise and adjust, adapt and overcome, be flexible, know how to get the most out of a situation to where when the situation comes up, You don't sit there and go, what are we going to do? You know, hey, this is who we got. This is what we got to do. This is the most effective way we're going to get it done. Doesn't always make for the best practices at times, but you really don't have another choice, right? So over the summer, there were times where two of my defensive guys were teaching summer school. So there were days where it's just me and one other guy out there doing defense. Well, hard to do Indy work when you don't have all your coaches there to do Indy. So there was a lot more team install. If I could grab a third guy to do tackling circuits, non-contact, we would do tackling circuits, right? I got to find a way to make that 50 minutes the most effective way possible, even though it doesn't fit the plan that I had laid out. Now, I can sit there and bitch about the plan and go, you know what? This is what I drew up. This is what I spent time coming up with. This is what we were supposed to do. Or I can sit there and go, well, shit, this ain't going to work. This is what we're going to do today, and we're going to make the most of it. We're going to get the most out of it. So just like our post-practice today, I got a chance to steal 10 minutes to install 2 blitzes. So now when I go to installation on Thursday, I'm one step ahead of the game because I found a way to steal extra time. Special teams. All right. You're always trying to find a way. So, one of the unique things we do is during our water breaks, every water break is split up to where there's a certain group of specials that have to be on the field working. And then we're fortunate enough to have managers that can bring water to them because they don't get a chance to go to the water break. The first time we break for water, in parentheses on the practice plan, it's going to say, hey, long snappers, punters, punt returners. Those guys need to be working during the water break. I help the special teams coordinator with long snappers. So I know during that water break, my ass needs to go over where the long snappers are. The next water break, it was wide receivers, DBs, working on recovering onside kicks. So like our hands team stuff. I know that I'm responsible for throwing or kicking a bunch of the balls that we need to get to those guys, right? So I know where I fit in the practice plan. I know what we're trying to do. We're constantly trying to steal time in the practice plan based on the amount of coaches we have. My luxury is because I have 24 years experience as a head coach, I now know all the things that used to piss me off as a head coach. And I can now be that Swiss Army knife for my head coach, right? That's one of the things I always told myself. The second time I got fired and I decided that I've been doing this long enough, I don't need to be a head coach. I have nothing to prove to anybody anymore. I just want a good job on a good staff. Well, part of that deal for me was I now know that I am not going to be, I'm not going to be two-faced, so to speak, to bitch about everything as a head coach, but go become the assistant coach that I used to bitch about. I don't want to be that guy. So fortunately for me, I have 24 years of fucking things up, screwing things up, making mistakes to where now I can fit in a practice plan and I know where the guy needs help and I can run over there and take the long snapper. I can run over there and throw squib balls or, pooch kicks to whatever we need to do because the practice is set up that way. So, again, the practice plan is what you make of it, depending on how many coaches you have. It's what you're trying to get done. And then it's all about taking initiative as a coach to figure out where you can help something going on. So like, I know I talked earlier about scrimmage vests, bonnets or whatever. It's just a pet peeve being a former head coach. When we go from one period to the next, if we're in a water break and I know that the next period I'm doing scout stuff for the varsity offense, I just go run over and get 11 bonnets, pennies, whatever we're using, so that when we get to that period, the offense doesn't have to waste time. Now, could I sit there and bitch about it and go, hey, you guys on offense, have you realized that every time we go to this drill, you're going to need pennies or bonnets and not one of you have grabbed one yet? Yeah, you could do that, but what purpose is it serving? Maybe you'll teach a lesson to those guys. Hey, guys, have you ever thought that maybe we need more than one football? Have you ever thought that maybe we need bonnets, pennies, or scrimmage vests? Or because I've been there before bitching about it, I could be the guy that runs and gets the scrimmage vest to say, hey, guys, defense, scout, when we go, we got the pennies, let's go. Let's not waste offense's time, right? So, to me, that's the education of a coach. That's where, I don't think I can tell you how to build a state championship. I've never won a state championship. I've never been past the third round, but I can tell you from experience where I think you can help a program get better, where you can help a function, something moving in a better direction, right? So you choose every day. You can be the guy that bitches about everything, or you can be the guy that helps fix it, right? So, do I get pissed some days and be like, hey, why am I the only motherfucker grabbing pennies and bonnets every day? Yeah, I could do that. Or I could just grab the pennies and the bonnets and make sure that the offense, now the only thing that I would the only thing that I would bitch about is, well, if we're on defense and somebody's doing a scout offense, well, you see me grabbing the pennies every day. Maybe you should grab the pennies when I'm on defense. But it's not really a bitch or a gripe. It's more about the efficiency of, hey, guys, we've been doing, I've been on this staff for a year and a half now. I get the same practice plans everybody else does. I know the way we are supposed to do things. To me, it's just, not only, Bilbo, you mentioned morale, and, it's not only the morale of it. It's like the efficiency of what we're trying to get done. I know how limited our time is. I know how the practices are supposed to roll. And I know that the head coach is going to get pissed if we're not flowing. So let's do all the things that we can do to help keep it flowing. Because who wants him? I don't want him pissed. Because if he's pissed, then he's going to bitch at me about something, or it's human nature. Right? I was a head coach. I did the same thing. I get pissed at something and I bitch at somebody else about something. How do we function? How do we get better? How do we continue to get better? Those are the things that we need to talk about. We're in full gear now, not full practice gear. We're in full gear football, full football mode. We're in season. Your season is either started, it's going to start. I want to get on here and talk about things that I think we can be doing better. Now, when the season starts, I can talk about X's and O's, and I can talk about what we're doing, what works, what doesn't work. If I could help 2 power schools that run that formation in my first year as varsity DC, that's leadership. Shit. I have not faced full every down, full house tee, short yardage, yes, different deals, yes. But I will take a look at that, Carlos. That's interesting. And I will give you, if I can't do a video, then I'll hook up with you somehow and give you an opinion on what I would do. My first thought is heavy 8-man fronts. How can we get 9, 10, possibly 11 guys involved in the run fit? Is there a wrinkle we can make, like a robber theory? Is there a key? Do they have, if you have film on those guys within that full house backfield, is there a guard that pulls? Is there a play side, a backside? Is there a key that you can look at? Is there something like the old single wing days, or is there somebody we can focus on to give our guys on the back end a better read? I know that to like the double tight stuff, if you're playing 4-2-5 8-man front, I know it'd be simple enough to say, hey, take 2 of the guys that are playing the high part and they read off the tight end playing quarters concepts. If the tight end puts his hands on somebody, we're adding ourselves. We've got 2 force players on the outside. So we're trying to be balanced to both sides. They're double tight, 3-man surface, 3-man surface, 3 backs in the backfield. We've got to be able to set an edge to both sides. To me, my first thought is 8-man front is balanced. Yes, you're going to have to figure out what to do with the front, because if you play with a 3 and a 7 to one side, what are you going to do the other side? Can you play with double 3s? Do you need to play with 2s and slant and angle? Don't have enough experience playing that stuff to know what I've been ripped on, what's been good to me. But just thinking out loud, first thought would be balanced 8-man fronts. How do I get 9 and 10 hats involved? And can I steal another guy based on what they do in the passing game? Can I steal another guy maybe that fits or mirrors the fullback or one of the backs that I think is the tell in the system? That's just thinking out loud. My first thought. Probably wouldn't play our tight 3 high stuff to it, I can tell you that. Our coverage structure would fit. We could play modified quarters concepts in theory to both sides, to where we're reading off the tight end. So if the tight end puts his hands on somebody, we can gain an extra guy. So for us, like if we were playing the nub side of a formation, so let's say like we were playing trips closed. On the backside of the closed set, we could probably play our same sky concept with a safety down, but I would be teaching the corner different as the high player. Instead of teaching it more like a half field deep theory, if he's to a closed side and it's a nub tight end and that's the only guy that can release deep down the field to threaten him, well, if he's going to put his hands on somebody and he can't go vertical, there's no sense for me to backpedal. So I teach our half field concepts to a nub different than I teach them to an open. All right. So if we're playing an open receiver half field concept, that's going to be a completely different theory. I'm not going to change the terminology. I'm going to change the technique that the high guy uses. We're not going to be a pedal out deep half player to a nub side or a compressed set like that. When if that guy's the only threat vertical and he blocks somebody, I can add myself as a helmet, right? So, skip ads. So again, it's numbers, right? They've got, what do they got? 3, 7. So they got 7 guys on the line of scrimmage, 3 backs. So 2 of them can be lead blockers. If it's old school stuff, maybe all 3 of them can lead block, and the quarterback can be a ball carrier, depending on how they're doing it. So if they've got 8, get 9, 10, 11 hats, if possible, is just the first thought, thinking out loud, I would have. But anybody else, while I'm here the last couple minutes, are there any other videos or suggestions, things that you want to see, videos that I can do, topics that you want covered? Great question, Carlos. I wish I had a better answer for you. Topics that you want covered, things maybe that you want to see in the future. Any videos, if I can do them, I will certainly do them. If it's technique stuff or, drill stuff or us playing stuff, that's probably going to be on Patreon, more of the Patreon site that, again, the subscription site. That's where I put, last year in the spring, I put like our DB Indy periods on there, and then our 7-on-7s on there. If you want to see us actually playing stuff, it doesn't go on YouTube. It goes on a different site for that reason. So, Patreon for me is like YouTube on steroids. So the stuff that I don't do on YouTube. But if it's a video that I can do on YouTube, I will certainly do it. If you have any suggestions and I feel like I can do the video, I will 100% do it. If it's practice plans and you want something, I can do it. If it's organizing a staff, whatever questions you may have, whatever topics you may want discussed, then I am all for suggestions. I am all for, because again, this will be the time of the year where I start doing, although they took my health portable and made it a biology classroom. What I'll do, Carlos, is maybe tomorrow I'll go through how we organize our practice plan, and I'll talk about our practice plan, and I'll do a video on that. I've got to figure out where I'm going to do my videos now. They took my portable that I had my health class in, and they made it a biology class, and I now have to roam. I became one of those roaming teachers. So 25 years in a business, 51 years old, and I got to roam from class to class. And I'm not really as pissed about that as I am about they took my YouTube studio. That's where I shot all my videos. So now I got to find another place with a whiteboard in an area that people aren't going to come into so I can shoot my YouTube videos. So, we all have priorities in life, right? I'm not pissed off about roaming as much as I am about you took my damn YouTube studio and now I got to figure out a different place, or maybe I can ask the biology teacher if I can shoot my videos on, in that room. But now I don't have a key to that room. So, but I will do that tomorrow, Carlos. I'll find the equipment room, or I'll find somewhere where I can do that. And I will lay out our practice plan. I'll actually lay out our practice plan from today with our varsity guys. And I'll take you through flex. Another interesting thing we do that I think people could get a lot of value out of. As soon as we come out of flex, every day we do a closing space sprint shimmy deal. So we set up 7 half moon bags across, and as soon as they come out of flex, 7 lines go on those half moons about 5 to 7 yards away. They full speed sprint, and then when they get to the half moon, it's a right foot up shimmy. So we're working on our near foot, near shoulder, how to close. We're sprinting to close space, but then we're breaking down with what we call our shimmy near foot. So it's right foot up, and they're just ripping through. Coach blows the whistle. 7 guys go full speed sprint, decel. So we're getting closing, sprint, decel, how to drop, how to get your knees, ankles, hips to bend, big chest, face mask up, sky your eyes, look through your brows, don't have your face mask down. And then in the middle of it, head coach just yells out, left foot up. We sprint, we shimmy. We do that every single day with every single player, quarterbacks, kickers, everybody that's there during that period goes straight from our flex into that sprint shimmy, because That's another part of tackling and deceleration, acceleration into deceleration, how to drop, how to bend. So we do that every single practice. It's verbatim coming out of flex. We go straight to what we call sprint shimmy. So those are like little things I can take you through and go, hey, here's what we do every day. All right. So we have a pre-practice period every day. So I'll do a video on that. That's a very good idea. I've done other practice organization stuff, but I'll actually take you through our exact practice plan, who's where, how we break the periods up. And as long as I have a place to shoot it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll upload it tomorrow. Any other ideas you guys have? If it's throughout the season and you're getting beat by something and you want to ask, and if I can do a video on something, if I can do it, I'll do it. Any other suggestions you have or things you'd like to see? Keep in mind also topics when the season, I know we just started, it's day 2. Some of you guys haven't even started yet, but I'm already planning on next year's Zoom clinics, who the speakers are going to be, what the topics are going to be, anything else that you guys want to see, anything else that you would want to hear about. Let me know, keep me informed, send me a message. If you want get your hands, I have, like, I know on my end stuff that I've done. I've got a split field clinic that I did. I've got a blitz family clinic that I did. I have a tight front clinic that I did. So any of the clinics that I've done that you want to get your hands on, email me. We'll figure out a way that we can do it. Again, I know I say this every week, but there's only certain things I charge people for. Everything else I do is free. I'm at a different point in my life now where I got to start thinking about a daughter that drives, another car. So everybody's got their hustle. I have certain things. I don't do many things well in life. I only have a few. And of the things that I do well, I probably need to monetize. So if you want to get your hands on tight stuff, I've got that. Split field, I've got it. Blitz families, I've got it. All the other clinics that we did, Noma Zone, Devin Bice, offensive line coach, West Alabama, Atavis tackling. I've got all that stuff in my YouTube library. So if you're interested in any of that, leave me a comment, leave me a message, email. I give it to you every time, but I'll give it to you again. Those are also all things that get posted on my Patreon site. So patreon.com/Coach Mac. Those are all things, us playing stuff from games I put on there. 7-on-7s I put on there. Practice stuff I put on there. So if you were interested in seeing us play certain things and me talk you through it, Patreon would be the place to go. Again, I don't overly advertise that site simply because YouTube is where I make my living, my name. The only thing you guys can help me with is I'm trying to get to 4 million views. So if you guys know anybody else out there that can subscribe, we're pushing 25,000 subscribers, which is awesome in the football world. Pushing 4 million views, which is awesome in the football world. So that's where all the thanks goes to you guys. All the thanks goes to everybody that follows this stuff. So again, that's what we're trying to. I appreciate you, Carlos. I appreciate you, James. Thank you. That's where we're trying to get to. That's where we're trying to grow the channel and reach some of those milestones and put it out there that's what we're doing. That's what we've done. So, suggestions, comments, anything you guys want, I'm here to do what helps you. I'm here to do the things that can make you guys better. And at the same time, I'm here to do the things that can help you that I've already fucked up. So half of the things I'm going to tell you are done because I've already screwed them up. If you guys are younger guys, then live through mine and other people's experiences and let us tell you where we screwed up. And then hopefully try and give you a way to fix the things that we've screwed up. That's what this business is. So again, I'm also still interested. I'm going to try and do one of these a week. I'm still interested. If you don't have notifications on, put them on so you know when we do them. I want to hear what you guys are dealing with. Carlos, when you finally do play that team, I'd like to hear what you went with and if it worked or not. And then maybe we can build off of that. Anybody else that's playing certain things, I don't care if it's offense, defense, special teams, practices, anything that's going on out there. I want to know if it's working, if it's not working. Um, I might steal something from you. You never know. So this business is all about sharing. Going to continue to do one of these a week, I hope. I don't know what night. If it's going to be the same night every week, it'll just kind of be based on my schedule and when I have free time. But I want to continue doing at least one a week through the season if I can. Videos will be ramped up. Everything else will be ramped up. So full tilt, full go, back to work, back to school. For all of you, if you're in the same business and you're teaching, good luck. Good luck with back to school. Good luck with all that stuff. Hopefully everybody out there had a great summer. Hopefully everybody out there is in good health, in good spirits, and taking care of themselves so that we can continue to do all the great things that we do. So appreciate you guys being here tonight. Appreciate the hour and 40 minutes that we get to spend together. Appreciate all the comments, all the questions, everything else that you guys do for Play Fast Football. So I'll get that video out tomorrow, Carlos. So look at that. If you're interested in any of the clinics we've done or any of the stuff that I've done that I can get to you, just hit me up and we'll work out a way that we can work that out. If you're interested in YouTube on steroids, look at patreon.com. It's $5 a month, I think, something like that. So one charge a month. I don't sell anything else on there. Everything that gets posted, if you're on the site, you can see it. There's no catch. There's no addendum to it. If it's up there, you're a member, you can see it. But that's basically YouTube on steroids is how I would describe it. So if you're interested in that, patreon.com/Coach Mac. Twitter, Coach Mac 8740, Play Fast Football, Florida Football Chat. Those are all the Twitters that I run. So out there, pushing it, grinding, selling Play Fast, trying to take it to the next level, trying to get it above and beyond, right? Every day is a work in progress. So wouldn't happen without you guys. I appreciate you guys. Good luck to everything that's going on. Good luck to the start of school. Good luck to the start of football if it hasn't already started. If you already started, good luck to you. Stay hydrated. Get through each day. Make sure you're healthy for your kids. Can't coach them if you're not there to coach them. So another great night on YouTube Live, guys. Thank you so much for what you do for me. That video will go out tomorrow. Carlos, any other suggestions, hit me up. Appreciate you guys very, very much. And remember that you won't play well until you play fast. Thank you for everything you do for me, the game of football, kids. I will see you next time.